I would like to thank everyone for attending and for being here with me to discuss trade ideas and what we do. The title of my talk is about the rise of wealth hacking using artificial intelligence. I certainly want to thank some of the speakers that have been presenting today, and most notably Ross Cameron, who just got off the stage. Ross and his Warrior Trading Service is an amazing educational service, and it's good when you find services like that that can marry education with technology. And I'm gushing because, in fact, many of the charts and the technology that Ross demonstrated is trade ideas, and so that's a nice transition to go from one topic and subject to the next. So what I'm showing you in terms of wealth hacking is really the concept that I think is going to be, you're going to hear more and more often, because of the importance that everyone will have to have in terms of being responsible for their own returns in the markets going forward. And we think we've come up with the right technology and innovation that leverages artificial intelligence to find what opportunities are working in the market today. Our mission at Trade Ideas is to help people give them the confidence to make a trade, but that confidence comes from having an information advantage. It doesn't come from just beating on one's chest or having a gut instinct. It comes from having an information advantage. So, with that in mind, what you're looking at in my first slide here is the performance of our artificial intelligence investment discovery engine that has been live since the beginning of the year. And this top line, this green line, is the artificial intelligence performance. We call her Holly. And on the bottom line in blue is the performance of the S&P. And this chart is updated as of today, and Holly's performance as of this morning was accumulated profit points of 29 versus the S&P's accumulated profits of negative 5.9. And you can see clearly where Brexit has come in. What explains Holly's performance is obviously the subject of my presentation, but it also comes into the fact that Holly, unlike the S&P, can choose not to trade. It can choose to go short. It can use a variety of strategies that it has devised and it's learned in order to find what opportunities are out there in the market. So let me step through the presentation I have. There's just one little housekeeping item to mention here, and that's a disclaimer that we are a publisher. We are not giving any financial advice even in this demonstration. So it's upon you to make sure that you consult with your advisor and that you understand what the risks are in trading. And so this is a brief disclaimer for that I'm obligated to share with you. So as Renee talked about, I wear a couple of hats, but my main one is I'm the co-founder and managing partner of Trade Ideas. And I am a student of the market, having been trading since the beginning of Trade Ideas in 2003, when we started collecting revenues. We had a beta product in 2002. You can find me at Trade Ideas on Twitter, and I'm also the author of the Holly Morning Huddle, which is found on our blog, which is at the bottom there. And you might characterize me as an anxious trader. I get very nervous, and I am very conservative. But when I make a trade, I make sure that I have an information advantage, and increasingly that comes from the innovations that we've been able to yield out of years and years of innovation and trade ideas.
EVHC.
So in the background, you may actually also hear Holly putting on a trade, which we'll get into in just a moment, because I kind of want to set the stage with some of these slides. As I mentioned, we've been in business since 2002, 13 years of creating innovation that we wanted as traders ourselves to be able to see. And we've built a successful business selling these tools to brokerage firms. And now our focus is more increasingly on the retail side, our direct subscribers. But we have strong relationships with the following industry leaders that you see here below, and these relationships are constantly evolving, and we're always adding new partners to this list. So my job here today is to really help you see the forest through the trees, and to help you understand how technology is affecting the way that people will engage in the market. And let's stop here for a second and kind of think about that the market is still one of the best places with which to create wealth, right? It's because of its liquidity. You can put money in on a decision and pull money back out with relative ease. Now that's different if you compare it and contrast it with real estate, for instance. If you buy a rental property, if you buy your home, you've put that money to work, but it's tied up for a good number of years as you wait to see a return. If you fancy yourself a VC or someone who might be a franchisee, you put money into those projects, and it takes years before you see them, if at all, money coming back out. But the market is very different in the sense that you can make a call and you can make a decision and put capital to work on those decisions. And whether they work out or they don't, you can change and you can pull money back out. And that makes the market an exciting and still almost a required place with which to put your money at work. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about trade ideas and what we're trying to accomplish with trade ideas. It's important to note that there are many similarities. A close analogy is how we humans go around and navigate ourselves with our smartphones and with Google Maps, and how that process used to be very, very different in our lives. So the history of kind of directional assistance used to be with sitting in the car and then figuring out where you're going, talking to your spouse, partner, loved one about directions, whether you stopped at a gas station or not. I just don't know how people did this beforehand. The equivalent there is like, for the stock market, who are you getting a hot tip from, and how might that be used in the market, so to speak. We then moved to printed maps in the early part of the internet, where before you left for your destination, if you printed out a map, you were, where you collected a map, you were guaranteed some idea of how you might get there. And that's what we see in a lot of financial stock selection and screening sites, as well as research and newsletters and communities on the web, where you can get this kind of information about these particular stocks. Tesla is innovative. It's creating battery companies and the like, and driverless cars, and that this holds promise, but the timing isn't there to necessarily find out when this is the right opportunity or not. And then we move to kind of GPS, where you have screeners and you have scanners that are on the market, where you put in your criteria, you can get a select response, a list of stocks that come back, right? And these are all foundational technologies that Trade Ideas itself were built on and have used. But where the real innovation comes is in the same way that you now use Google Maps to get to where you're going. That is, I don't care about the signals, I don't care about the satellites, I don't care about the intense enormous amount of algorithms and computational power that helps me get, with assurance and confidence, to my destination. I just know that it works. And that's what we're building at Trade Ideas, is this kind of artificial intelligence, machine learning that just works and earns the confidence with every idea that it publishes. So can anyone guess what the destination is in using Trade Ideas that we try to help our customers achieve? Okay. I'll leave that open-ended question. Here's a secret, though, about the way that we've structured the technology to meet some deep needs in the market with our customers. And the secret is this: that you're actually not that good at figuring out if a trade is likely to work or not. I'm not good at it. No one has 100% confidence. You can make a lot of guesses, but on a consistent basis, it turns out that, with the exception of few who put in tireless hours and make it their profession, we're just not good at figuring out if a trade is going to work or not. So how do we deal with this not so secret, right? We've talked to thousands of people who use our technology over the years, and more recently, as we've done more surveys with them, that the sentiment out there, and it's not hard to measure, is that it feels like mission impossible out there. And that's been a recent phenomenon over the last 5 to 6 years, where technology has had many benefits in terms of allowing us to see the market, analyze the market, but to the vast majority of people, there's a lot of still painful manual ways that people are interpreting the market and trying to make decisions in the market. There's two sides, two obstacles essentially. There's the obstacles inside all of us, and that's at the beginning of this list, and then there are some structural obstacles that the market puts in front of us as well that we have to overcome. And it's no surprise that the sentiment out there is that it's very hard to trade, right? You have to manage your own ego, the emotions of fear and panic that come over and can affect your decisions. The access that most people have in order to engage the market is limited, and they don't have the instrumentation to see on a scale the entire market universe, but sometimes rather just a small corner of it, of the most popular stocks. Again, however they've set up the ability to receive ideas. And again, as I said, that affects the decision quality on the other in making a market decision. Then there are the market structural issues that are out there, the actual market volatility, the actual economic uncertainty, and that's not more evident than the recent Brexit decision for Britain to leave the EU that it can have on the market as a whole, and the likelihood that this wasn't just a one-time event, that this is going to insert a large amount of continued volatility and continued uncertainty in the market. That makes it hard. And so here's what we see as a result of people expressing this sentiment that it's hard to trade. You see the rise of a lot of services out there that are called Robo Advisors that will take your money and that will put it to use by putting the majority of your portfolio and retirement savings into and tied to a particular index and certain ETFs, so that you are, especially with respect to an index, you are guaranteed to earn no more, and importantly, in some respects, to not earn any less than what everyone else or what the overall market average or index is doing. That's great, but that yields another secret, and the fact is that you're not going to create wealth by indexing and ETFing yourself, for long-term wealth creation. You've got to be able to spot opportunity. Now, we Trade Ideas, we've positioned the firm to actually be a complement to many of these robo-advisors, and in many that we talk to, we kind of say, hey, we are complementary, and in the sense where we're not looking to take over the entire portfolio, we're looking to take over a very small, prudent allocation of the overall portfolio that would be dedicated to a more aggressive, high risk, but potentially high return form of capital appreciation, of trading in the markets. So it's not, and so we're not looking to take over the entire portfolio, and we're not certainly asking our customers to be passive with this approach, but we're asking to take a smaller slice and to be very active for the purposes of not being tied to an index, but to finding alpha, generating ideas, and trying to build a higher return than the markets, than the indices. So we come down to a question, and then I'm going to transition over to the actual demonstration of the technology. How can you analyze over 1 million unique trades to find the handful that you should look at today? How can you look over 1 million scenarios and then determine which are the best algorithms or strategies from which to trade? Right? It's one thing to be able to put in certain criteria and get a list of stocks back out to say, okay, these are the biggest gainers, but is this list of the top gainers a correct strategy to follow when the next stock idea comes through that same scanner? And if so, what are the odds of actually turning a profit? What would be an appropriate stop loss? It's all these considerations. How would you be able to do that over 1 million times without staying up all night? Well, that's where we have, and that's how we introduced Holly, which is our investment discovery engine. Let's see. I have a half a mind to play this, but I'm not. Actually, I'm going to skip this. If you go to trade-ideas.com, you can see this this video. It's a quick 30-second or maybe a minute or so video that explains in broad strokes just what Holly is doing. So I will leave that as a because I just want to be conscious of time. I want to leave that for you to look at later. But essentially what the AI does is that we use statistics and the odds of possible outcomes to analyze millions of these scenarios in order to create a regime of algorithms. We call this the quantitative combine, where we put strategies to work and we let Holly optimize and understand if I change a variable, if I change a trading plan, if I change an indicator, for instance, is social media mention rates, if I change that and make it higher than usual and I run the scenario, do I get a better odds or a better probability of making a profit? If so, that indicator and its value stay inside, and it goes on to the next variable. And then it exposes all of those ideas to a trading plan. Should I hold this for 3 hours, for 30 minutes? What stop loss should I set? What profit target should I set? And the answers come out to be the averages of all these scenarios. So when Holly puts out a stop loss, you know that it's based on the averages of all the scenarios that it's run. Okay. So let's move to this this technology and kind of show you an overview. When you first open trade ideas, as important as Holly is and the AI channel is, it's, especially in the morning, it's often not the first thing that people look at. We have a pre-market channel. If I click on this, and what I'm clicking in here on the far left is what our channel bar is, and this is an innovation of itself. We've long considered that having our customers configure this tool, which is entirely possible. You can create the kinds of strategies that you want inside trade ideas. But the real value comes in letting us design the experience for you. And so in many ways, I apologize here, hold on. I'm sharing my screen with the webinar, and it will take up sometimes a bit of time. And I accidentally opened up another application, but that's okay. So the channel bar has a list of pre-configured views of the market, motifs, if you will, takes on the market that we showcase and allow our subscribers to see. So this is all the pre-market activity that happened before the market opens, and you can see that we have a variety of these channels based on different themes. We have a post-market channel. We have a channel devoted exclusively to social media. One's devoted exclusively to options. Let me click on the options channel. And again, themed around, you know what you're going to see in the context of what you're going to see by choosing the particular channel. So here we have some strategies that we have designed for our viewers who are interested in options to look at what's unusually up strong with strong options volume, put or call. And then we have what's moving higher with lower than usual options volume, which is interesting. This is what PBI is doing right now. If I have an idea, I click on it, I can immediately see the chart on a 5-minute or daily, and you can change these time frames by clicking in and configuring the tool to your liking and then saving the layout. But this is what we call providing the best impression, making the best first impression that we can. And the best way we know without knowing exactly what kind of trader you are is to present these options as channels, and very much like HBO, publish shows, put on content that our users wind up selecting and determining what they want to see and what they don't. And we make regular production decisions all the time to say what shows should we cancel, what shows do we need to put on, and so forth. And that's what causes this channel to evolve every couple of months or so. Right, so we have ones that are ETF focused. We have some channels that are focused on strategy, sectors like energy and metals. But then others, as you can see, that span several sectors and create more of a theme. And then, of course, we have our live trading room. And I'll just take a moment to pull that up and show you what that looks like. The trading room is where we have an ongoing conversation with our with over 400 traders in the room. And let me see. I'm sorry. Let me pull this up real quick. I had it up and now it's gone. That's our trading room. All right, so this is a room that's got over 400 people in it talking about the scans and strategies that they're looking at. And this is by no means meant to compete. Again, with I showered Ross Cameron with praise before as I came on. This room doesn't have education. It's simply moderated by one of our. Actually, we have a practice of hiring many of our customers. So on the call today, but giving me moral support here is Steve Gomez, who is user number 3 of Trade Ideas, and has been with the company for so long that it was only a natural move to hire him as an employee. He knows more about the tool than I do at this point. But in that same regard, we have an individual who started answering all of our support questions on our forum better than we could, and when you find someone, when you find a customer like that that understands your tool as much, if not more than you do, you hire them. And so Barry is the gentleman who runs our moderated trading room. But he's not an educator like Ross and others who use trade ideas to integrate the technology into their education. But he is there to moderate discussions about what's working, what strategies are working, and oftentimes you'll find people in the spirit of the community sharing what it is they're looking at. So that's a brief overview of the channels. Let me get back to, obviously, which one of our most popular and right up at the top is the artificial intelligence channel, and that's Holly. That's what I want to kind of spend the rest of my time talking about in terms of well hacking. So as Holly populates here, as the channel populates, what I've shown you in detail, starting on the left, is that channel bar. And I'll start and describe what's on the top here as this fills in. So on the top row, you have a series of charts. You have, like in the other channels, what the S&P is doing. That's the default. On a 5-minute, on a daily, and then you can see what the S&P is doing on 15 minutes. But if I were to select any of the particular symbols here, these symbols change, and you always have a view of what the S&P is doing. That's the top row. The second row is Holly's performance and the list of algorithms that it's determined are going to work today. So let me start on the left here. So right now we're having a very good day where Holly is up $2.21. So if you, that's per share. If your lot sizes were $100 or $1,000, you'd be making respectively $2,000, $2,200 or so. What you see next to the performance of Holly for the day, the daily chart, is the list of algorithms. And today there were 4 that Holly had overnight determined what were most prime and most applicable in the market today. Sometimes that list is 8, sometimes that list is 6, sometimes it's as many as 12. And not every strategy is traded. In this case, every single one of the 4 has had at least one particular trade from it. And that's where I can click on the symbol here, or click on the column and resort the order here. So 2 of the strategies traded 8 times and 2 of them traded once. Sometimes if it's a longer list, there won't be a stock that meets the criteria of that strategy or algorithm, and therefore will not fire off a trade. But Holly is nevertheless prepared. I showed you at the very beginning of the presentation the large dip that the S&P had because of Brexit and the uncertainty that ensued. And you did not see that same dip from Holly. And because of the machine learning that happens, and I'll explain a little bit how that works in a moment, but Holly literally sat on her virtual hands, I believe it was that Friday, and did not make any trades whatsoever. And it had a list of algorithms that it was going to, through which it was going to look for opportunity, but none. The markets were in such a condition that it met none of the criteria. And that perhaps is one of the best behaviors you would want to see out of artificial intelligence and machine learning, and that is that ability to understand risk to the point where not making a trade is as good as booking in a profitable one, right? So, as I mentioned, Holly goes through this enormous amount of calculation overnight at about 6:30 Eastern time every morning. Market day, it will publish its list of algorithms. And then if you go to our blog, you'll see the article about how it's prepared for the day, what is at stake, how many of the strategies are long, how many are short, and how is Holly best prepared for the trading day. Today, it published 3 long strategies and 1 short. And what you see within this middle area, this middle performance table here, is the winning percentage up to today of what the strategy, how the strategy was performing. And the highest strategy with the highest win rate was the short strategy. So this short strategy led the 4 in terms of performance up to today. And then you can kind of see a small performance thimble chart that shows, just by marking green and red and black, how and where the strategy has been performing up to today in the recent past. And then we tell you whether it's a long short strategy, give you the name of the strategy. All the opportunities going across here have a time stop. Now, Holly is conditioned to end her trades at the end of the day. those who follow Holly can choose to do otherwise, follow Holly or extend the trade if they're so inclined and they make the decision to stay in. But these strategies are sometimes as many as 3 hours. In this case, the longest hold period is 60 minutes. And it comes with a smart stop loss trigger, a profit target for every idea, what the win rate today is. So as a result, these numbers on the far left will increase because of the win rate today that's been achieved with these strategies. How many open trades there are? There's only one. That's here in this bottom window. And then the number of trades that it's made today. It's made 16, 17, 18 trades today. And that's what you see in this bottom window here, the strategy of trades that are closed. Let's look at some of these. But before we look at the individual stocks, let me point out this non-exit profit and this profit columns. So Holly has already booked in these profits, and if you followed her, if you followed any of these ideas, you would see that as the position exited, Holly lists what the reason was. In this case, BPT, the stop was hit, so it left the trade at a small loss. But here's a case where the profit was saved. The actual closed profit was 8 cents, and the non-exit profit is how we track after the trade is over where the trade went. And in this respect, ATRO, you can see where Holly entered the trade at 32.17 and exited at 32.25. Right? Let me show you another one. But what's important here is that it made an 8 cent profit, and then the stock started to roll over, and it's now at a loss of 22 cents. Sometimes the non-profit exit is higher than what the original book profit was. Let me show you a great example today that shows this in spades. Here's GBR. All right, so GBR was one of the best, clearly one of the best. And by the way, so I can sort this list by any particular column. So if I want to look at the max profit, I can see, okay, what is the most profitable trade that's been made today? Well, it turned out to be GBR. It actually only turned out to be a trade that was in that Holly was in for 6 minutes because its target was hit. This was a strategy from Escalate Under 20, which had over here a 71.9% win rate. And sure enough, it found GPR. It entered it at 172, and just before this huge rip, which it caught, it made for a very nice return. It booked its profits at 75 cents, and the stock has continued for another 65. This is what we mean by being a stock picker. This is what we mean by having to use technology in such a way that you are set up to confidently make a decision. Every one of these ideas has a profit target and a stop loss, and it has a virtual analyst sitting next to you that's done more homework and preparation for every one of these opportunities than you could possibly do on your own. And by leveraging machine learning, we really are changing the way that people engage with the markets than using a lot of old techniques that are still out there, a lot of old indicators like Bollinger Bands and MACDs and RSIs that frankly existed and were created before the age of supercomputing that exists on all of our desktops and in our laptops. Right? So we're putting all that to use in crunching an enormous amount of data to help find and spot these opportunities. Let me be wary of my time. Okay. So we can go through a few others. Again, as I mentioned, so each one of these in aggregate, you can see up here, I keep coming back to the non-exit price because it's very important in terms of understanding how people can use trade ideas in Holly outside of even being right there when the trade is made. So we mentioned if you're there in the markets and you have a certain finite amount of time, you can open up trade ideas, check in with Holly, and if Holly puts on a trade, follow those trades. But you can also certainly, there are ways to extend that horizon for people who don't or cannot always be at their computers for to receive this information that Holly's putting out. And for that, I want to take you to a tool that's inside of Trade Ideas that we call the Price Alerts tool. And that's found under here. It's going to produce this list, and I'm just going to pull up the window that I have here. Let's see. Okay, here's the price alert window. So the price alert window is a way that we have built into Trade Ideas. The ability, when Holly puts on a trade, or if you find a trade from any source, you can decide and mark a chart and create a price alert to determine when the stock comes back into play. If, for instance, you missed this particular chart in GPR, and you believe that there might be an opportunity, I wouldn't short this, it's such a small price stock, but if you decided that it might have another leg up if it were to just breach this level at 257, right? Then I can set a price alert. And I can set it for 268 or 271, whatever price I want. And I can say, time to get back in. Okay, that level gets saved for me now. And I can move it. If I decide in hindsight that I need to change that, I can lower the alert, and now it will set off a new trigger once it gets up to this threshold. When I have my price alerts, then it will show me. Let's see, put this in alphabetical order, and I can find here's GBR. Here's the stock we just put in. Time to get back in. So now this is a working alert that we're keeping track of. The other alerts in here are ones that I've already triggered, and you can see where it came. The alert came from above or below, whether I was shorting or going long. It tells you the price that the alert was set for, and the price that it was triggered. You can see over here, this is my P&L for all of my triggers. And what happens is, just to tell you a little bit of the workflow, all these triggers are from the month of June. That's why there are so many. As we roll into July, I'll delete all these. I'll delete most of them if some are still working, and I can see all the ones that are working by just putting a check mark here. I'll close out all the ones that I've triggered. I'll start, I'll close out most of the ones that I don't like anymore that might be working. Keep the ones I like, and then start building as I see July opportunities. And then in this way, I'm alerted whenever I sit down at my desk or on my phone. I can be alerted as to what Holly is, what activity, not even what Holly, it's ideas that may have come from Holly, but it's what activity I've seen previously that now I want to be aware of. And the notes can tell me everything I need to know. The notes can tell me, well, I could have put back time to get back in for GBR, and I could say that this came from the escalate under 20 strategy. Right? Enough to tell my future self what's happening. That becomes the real power of Trade Ideas and Holly, and a way to extend the time horizon that a lot of these trades, are under which a lot of these trades are produced. So let me close out a little bit, as I've just got a few minutes here left. I don't want to go over anyone's time. I'll kind of blow through the rest of these. The results that we generate are consistent. Holly is consistently doing the same. It's learning every day, but it will consistently provide the kinds of trade ideas that have a plan behind them, that represent an information advantage that is meant to give our customers the confidence to make a trade. Right? So we also just want to show you as well. We offer a trade of the week. I want to thank you for registering for this, and hearing me talk about the technology. As a result, if you go to trade-ideas.com, you can receive a free trade of the week. It's our free weekly newsletter. This week's trade of the week is Facebook, and we describe what the parameters are for a longer-term trade that we expect to last a weekend and more. And you can receive that for free. And that's a way to get yourself introduced to trade ideas. We also have again, as I mentioned, the vibrant community of investors, but that's supplemented by quite a number of webinars that we do throughout the week, where we engage existing, new, and potential customers and subscribers to trade ideas with our Q&A, with one of our educators. His name is Jamie Hodge, along with Steve Gomez, who's here with me now. They provide a kind of look at where are the markets, what are interesting stocks that are happening, what strategies are working well, and they share a lot of their knowledge and expertise that get garnered over their years of trading the markets. Right. So the price list, the way that Trade Ideas works is it's a subscription-based plans. We have plans that are for our regular trade ideas and our trade ideas premium, and you can see all the differences on our website. But for and until July 4th, we have a special promotion running for this particular conference, and for the time today you've spent with me. If you type in all caps Market Pros, you can get 15% off of this list of information, off of this price list rather. And again, feel free to contact me at Trade Ideas or Today Trader, which is Steve Gomez's handle.